Hi, I'm Mr. Miyagi, and this is Mr. Miyagi's Workshop. Well, we're back on that Honda CB360. I found some problems, and I thought might have been fatigue gears on this, but it wasn't. It was my fault. I put something in wrong. You know, it happens, so my bad, as they say. So I'll get to it, and I will show you exactly what I did wrong and the correct way to put it in. So what happened on this is that this fork, the mid fork here, which shifts the second and third and fourth gear, kind of whatever it is, back and forth in there, I had put the pin in proper, which goes in, let me show you here. Grab this. This just drops down in the hole. And it goes all the way down in and it catches inside that groove in there. The problem was that this catch, this little snap ring, I put it in this way. And that's not the way it goes. It goes in from this side. And the way you know that you've got it in right, and let me get it lined up here. I bought new pins because I wasn't sure that the old pin was, or the old clip was going to be good enough. So you just push that in, and it's a little difficult to push in. There. When you hear that click, you know you've got it in right. Now what that does is it holds that pin from coming out, and it will ride in that groove. The way I had it, it fit in there and held the pin in, but vibration had worked that pin out, and it fell out inside the engine, and then the pin drifted up. Well, then that made it so that this fork could just go sliding wherever it wanted to go. So that was why I locked up gears. So you can see right down in there how that clip from this side goes in over here, and there's actual two holes here. One where the straight goes, and then the clip itself goes in on this side. And then the straight drop runs across the top of that pin to keep it in place so it'll lock into the shifting groove. It was a stupid mistake. Cost me some time, cost me a chance to go up over Rat Trap Pass, but I didn't find anywhere in any instructions on any of the books I looked at, the manuals, where it said anything about that. Now, this is why I say always take photographs or videos of what you're taking apart so that you know how it goes back together. And guess what? I didn't take a picture of that or a video of that pulling that pin. Now these are those little clip pins I got 3 of them, I think, for $9, and they actually come from Japan. I found them on eBay, and I just ordered them, and the gentleman that I got them from came back pretty darn quick. So it is now Saturday. We started this project on Monday, so, you know, that's not bad for turnaround and stuff. So anyway, that's the number, and just make sure you put that back together proper. So one of the main things that you need to do is you make sure that your drum is in neutral, and you'll know that when you click it over and you feel it go into the detent on the back of the engine, and it'll pop right in there. So that means that everything is neutral, and that's how you need to put these gears back together on is neutral. Another thing is that you want to make sure that these little half rings are in place. You have one on this bearing side and one on this bearing side over here. And what that does is it holds that bearing from moving one way or the other, the whole shaft. Plus, there's two little detented that you need to set the other bearings into to lock in. So you want to make sure all these are locked into place. So I'm going to go grab the new cluster that well, it's used cluster, but it's in really good shape, that I'm going to put in here. What we're going to do is put this cluster in. This is, I believe, 4th and 3rd gear, and this is 5th gear here. So this just drops in. You want to make sure you hit the groove there for the shifting fork. So that just drops in there. And then make sure that your little clip is there. And then you want to rotate this around till you drop into that little detent. You know, it's on this side here. And another thing, what I like to do is I like to use this Ultimate Slick 50 just to put in there first, just to make sure that we get some lubricant going in on this. So this is the other cluster, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure that this all drops down into place. You just work it down in there. Here again, you want to make sure that you get that clip on this, that half moon clip on this side, down into place. And then rotate this around till that falls in. And then make sure this is all shoved down in there good and tight. So I'm going to put a little bit of that Slick 50 on this. Doesn't hurt to have it over lubricated, because this is the initial first startup. So now what we could do is we could go through the gears and make sure that everything works right on this. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of testing this stuff to see. I'm turning the drum. Now sometimes these won't slip right in. You have to actually move the gear to make them work right. That's neutral. That I think is 1st gear. So you'd shift from there. Neutral, 2nd. And I believe that is 6th gear. That's direct drive there. So, seems like everything is working. All right, so there we go. Hopefully I did everything right there. Now's a pretty good time to put the seals in place. This has a seal right on it that you need to put into the notch. So when this slides on, you get it to slide on, that little clip there on the seal goes down inside. I guess that helps stabilize it and whatever. But that needs to go down in place there. And then before you put this together, you should put a little bit of your sealant on this. Now I'm going to put sealant on the other part of the case that comes down on here, but I will also add a little bit in there. It just helps seal that edge a little bit. So I'm going to go put sealant on the other case, and I'll be right back. I might also add that it's a good time to put in the seal for your push rod that goes through here for the clutch to disengage it. So put that in. Same thing. You want to put a little dab of glue on each side of that before you put this case on, this bottom case, and make sure that everything fits on there proper. I'm going to put a thin layer of this Yamabond 4. It's an engine sealer. It really works well. I like it. It seals up everything nicely, but it doesn't get over hard, and it has this nice little squeeze thing. So basically all you need to do is just put a thin layer on this case. Make sure you go around all the little bolts and stuff. It just needs a thin layer. It doesn't need a lot. I just like to kind of run it over the surface like this. It smooths it out, puts a thin layer on it. and you're good to go. But remember, you got to put a little bit around those seals. And then you might want to use tool number 37, your finger. And I always wet it a little bit. Help smooth that out so it doesn't stick to your finger a little bit. But just make sure that that's an even coat on there. There we go. Perfect. Tool worked great. So I'm going to go over and put a couple little squirts of the bond on those seals. So we're going to do a little bit right here, right there. You don't need a lot, but you add a little bit more sealant in that area. Lower it down on there. And now let's just go along and put the screws in. Now I don't tighten it up because I want to put the shaft in, the shift shaft, and make sure that all works proper again. So we're going to put all these screws in, and then I'll come back with the shaft in place, and then we'll talk about that. Now I'm going to put in a couple little locks here. This is detent for the shifting drum. It needs to be in place to make everything work proper. That spring goes against the case there. This can be a little bit on the tough side to get in place, but just take your time. You'll get it. So I usually get it down, get it started, and then I'll bring that spring up and hook it. Take it down a little more, and then slide this. You got to get this over in place there. So what that's going to do is that holds that drum. This is your detent from when you're shifting. And then I'll tighten this up. There we go. That also keeps that shift rod on the other side for the two shifting forks from coming out. And then another thing we'll put in place, the shifting mechanism for shifting everything in place. So I like to put a little lubricant on this, just so when it's sliding through everything, it goes easy. So that just drops down in there. And then through the seal on the other side, there's a little catch here for holding that spring for this one. Then this just drops down there and locks. So now we should be able to put the shifter on and go through the gears on this. One other thing I'd also like to mention too is don't forget to put that bolt back in place there. That is part of the case bolts, and that needs to be in there. So I'm just snugging all this down, and then I'll come back and tighten everything. But I want to check the shifting first because that's where we're at. So I've just put the shifter on and went up to 6th gear, and I'm turning the clutch area here. So now we're downshifting. Want to make sure you hold that in when you're testing this. And it seems to be, Problem is that you've got there we go, 1st gear. So when this motor is running, all these gears are moving back and forth in there. So it's easier to shift, but when you're dry shifting it like this, you've got to kind of move the counter shaft and the clutch shaft to make sure everything is working properly. But everything seems to be working just fine. I've got all 6 gears again. So I'm gonna go through and retorque this. So you kind of want to do a crisscross pattern on all of this, and I have to go look up what the torque ratio is on this, but we'll get it straight. Oh yeah, and one other thing I forgot to mention is that your cam chain adjuster, I pushed mine in and locked it off. So when I get ready to do this, the valve adjustment and everything, the timing chain adjustment, all I have to do is back that off and set it up. And I'll show you at that point, but I've backed it off so it gives less pressure against everything in there. Now I've gone through and torqued the 8mm bolts down to 14 pounds. And then I'm going to go through and they need to be set between 6 and 8 pounds. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to back this down to 6 pounds, and then I'm going to let it sit for a bit, and then I'm going to come back and retorque everything again. So like I said, this is a crisscross pattern. All right, so I'm going to let this sit for a bit, and then I'm going to come back and do the final torque on these. I'll torque the 6s at what is it, right around 9 pounds, and then the 8mm I will do roughly right around 16, 17 pounds. Well, as you can see, I got most of it back together. Didn't want to bore you with a lot of just me putting stuff back on. Basically going back over, putting stuff back on the same way that I took it off. I'm not going to start it up tonight, but still have to put oil and everything into it. But it's pretty much back in, wiring's hooked up. Still have to hook up the chain, and put the back mounts on, and a few other little odds and ends, mount the tank, and check over the wiring again. What I did is when the engine was out, I checked the timing chain tension, readjusted the valves, made sure the valves are okay, and then double checked the points for timing, cleaned the plugs, all that kind of stuff. It was easier to do on the bench than sometimes it is in the bike. We're going to continue on here. When I get to the stage to start, then I'll let you know. And, what I want to do now, hasn't started for a while. I'm going to start the bike, and then we'll go through the gears and double check everything is working properly. I've got the bike jacked up now a little bit, so it'll be easier for me to go through it. So I'm going to start it right now. Power on, choke on. Having the shifting fork to work properly makes a big difference. This will be interesting. We still may have a chance to go up to Rat Trap Pass. We could sneak up there maybe this weekend and do it. I haven't got any reports on what's going on up there for snow, but this is ready to run. Anyway, as always, if there's any comments or questions, you can put them in the comment section below, or you can send them to my email address at tmiyagi@hotmail.com. And if you've liked this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget that ringy-dingy button over there for the next episode coming up. So, this is Mr. Miyagi saying, you be safe out there and hope to see you on the road. Ciao.